Happy April Fool's Day, everybody. I'm Solidus-Skully, and today you're not the fool. I'm the fool, because I'm playing Sonic Heroes, a game which is very nostalgic to my childhood, and one that as time went on, I have a great amount of respect for, but I can't say in my heart that this game is good in any way, shape, or form. There is a lot of problems with this game, I'm just getting this out there, and why am I playing Sonic Heroes on April Fool's Day? Well, most people only visit this place for Sonic anyway, so fuck it. Might as well just do the thing. Like, I mean, I don't mean to be so cynical. I mean, I'm kind of hungover at the moment, and, well, honestly kind of depressed, actually, so, you know, I don't want this to be an overtly negative commentary, but I mean, I do have a lot of problems with this game, so, I guess for the sake of airing out some legitimate grievances and just expressing some negativity towards Sonic Heroes within reason, well, this will be the commentary for you, and also as a means of showing people that I'm not completely rose-tinted on the whole Dreamcast era / everything in the kitchen sink era of Sonic, because, well, yeah, not everything was good, and this is ultimate proof that even your childhood can betray you sometimes. I'll get into the main mechanics a little bit later, but in the meantime, enjoy the cutscene.
This must be it! I found Eggman's secret treasure! Now I get it. Now I know what this is all about. You're mad at Eggman for sealing you in this room. And you can't remember anything, can you? Then it's settled. Now you two make up so we can start looking for Eggman together. Oh yeah, baby. This makes us a team.
You two ready?
Warning. Immediate destruction if distracted.
Hope you can keep up with me.
So, for those of you, well, actually no, I should probably cut that out, because, look everyone, it's Seaside Hill. Oh look, isn't it so wondrous and, like, pretty looking? It's like Green Hill Zone, but modern Sonic. Why the fuck do people keep on using Seaside Hill? Especially with, like, the All-Stars Racing and, like, Sega All-Stars Transformed sort of games. I don't know what people's obsession with it, because it's, I guess maybe it's meant to be considered modern Sonic's Green Hill, but I don't know. Give me Emerald Coast, give me one of the Sonic Rush stages, just give me Shelter, I don't know. This stage, it's an okay-ish first level, but I mean, it's not one that I think is necessarily that memorable. I don't know, I suppose just really get into how I'm handling things here. Basically, I'm only going to be doing two storylines intertwined, kind of similar to what I did with Enter the Matrix, where I kind of have where I had Niobe and Ghost's storylines intersect. It's going to be a similar case here, except we're only going to be tackling the two storylines in the game that actually fucking matter. Which is, in this case, Team Dark, because it introduces the mystery of Shadow's return, his amnesia subplot. That is basically just set up to Shadow the Hedgehog, which, well, we've already done on this channel, so, you know, if you want to see the resolution of that, I recommend Shadow the Hedgehog. But yeah, the only reason why I really say that this is one of the few storylines actually worth talking about is because, well, it's the only one with a real, like, main purpose and goal and sense of, like, growing mystery. The game itself does also have a growing sense of mystery, but it's not one that I think is necessarily that good, but I'll get into that a little bit later. And, well, as for the other team, you'll be seeing it a little bit later on, and we'll introduce them later, but let me just say... I guess to get into brass tacks with the gameplay, it's a much different setup from what we had with, you know, the Sonic Adventure and Adventure 2. Again, stages are linear, like Adventure 2, there's no hub worlds, and basically, well, in terms of core gameplay, you're controlling 3 different characters simultaneously, so it's not like the LEGO games where you, like, press a button to switch between the two. Well, I mean, you do kind of do that with Sonic Heroes, but I mean, you don't get full control of the characters. You're granted, like, a set amount of abilities. In Rouge's case, it's flight for a limited time, which is actually something I'm going to criticize a little bit later. With Shadow, you usually have, generally, Sonic's abilities, with, generally, you know, like a sliding maneuver, a rocket excel, which is fucking useless, homing attack, and a tornado spin. And with Omega, well, he's a power character. You're going to need to use these characters for a bunch of different things. Flight is obviously when you have to go through rings and collect, power-ups and shit. And access different areas, which you might think would enhance the level design, but it doesn't really. It's just sort of, okay, dumbass, go here, then go there, then go everywhere. Like this really. It allows you a different way of accessing the level. Again, and I think Seaside Hill is probably the best case scenario of showing exactly how this game could have potentially utilized its concept, but I don't know, it doesn't really seem to work in my eyes. Because, like, I mean, there does seem to be a sort of Sonic & Knuckles-esque design ethos here, where, you know, go up to the higher pathways, get rewarded, go to the lower pathways, and, well, slug your way through shit tons of enemies just for, you know, lesser playing skill. I don't know. Like, I mean, the weird thing is that it's sort of a weird mishmash between, I guess, what we had already seen with, you know, Sonic Adventure 2 in the sense that, you know, going through linear levels, completing a set of challenges. It's just with the added stipulation of having power and flight characters where you need to occasionally stop, fight enemies, hit switches, and, well, basically try and utilize them. Again, you can clear a majority of the stage mainly as just Shadow, if you so choose to, well, besides a few sections where you need to use Omega to smash something down, or Rouge to access, like, certain switches. But I mean, that, in and of itself, is kind of highlighting a bit of a problem, really. And again, it's not something that I necessarily want to use with a criticism of it's different and therefore ruined, but I don't know, when it comes to the pacing of Sonic Heroes, it's this entire gameplay concept, when it tries to also be a regular Sonic game, that's also when things start to get a little bit hampered. And honestly, it's to a much greater degree than, you know, what people might say would be for something like Shadow the Hedgehog or whatever, because at least in that game, it's a very consistent, focused core gameplay, despite the fact that not a lot of people like the third-person shooter elements. Well, more so the mission structure, but I mean, I digress. And that's also an example of another thing Sonic Heroes also has. It has, like, these weird bobsled minigames, which I guess is meant to be similar to the, like, the action set pieces, yet occasionally had in, like, Sonic Adventure and Adventure 2, where, you know, Sonic would be chased by a whale or boulder or some shit. It doesn't exactly work in Sonic Heroes, though, because it's quite, buggy. And especially the PS2 version. And I don't care how many people say, oh, you gotta play the GameCube version, because that one's actually good. It isn't. This game is flawed on a fundamental level, and if you use that fucking excuse, well, I have a lot of expletives, but I won't say them here because I like you, possibly. But, yeah, one thing you might have already noticed is that this game's, in terms of control, is basically, well, just imagine what would happen if you controlled the car in Enter the Matrix, except, like, it was a hedgehog/person. Yeah, Shadow's speed cap slash whatever is completely off the charts to the point where if you even fucking sneeze on the analog stick, you'll be sent flying off the way. And while there is a slight buffer with, you know, the little wobble animation when you tilt against a ledge, it's not much. It's just... And not to mention, this game just seems to love curved surfaces, so look forward to falling off the stage once we get to Frog Forest. Ugh, God. Like, I mean, I think you might be starting to see my grievances here. Because, I mean, you don't really see it in the early levels, but I mean, when I first played Sonic Heroes after so many years, just picking up this game again going, oh man, this is gonna be so cool. I'd love this game when I was a kid because, again, and I'm not sure if I brought this up before, but this was my first Sonic game. This was the game, well, I mean, more specifically it was Sonic X that brought me into the series initially, but it was Sonic Heroes that, you know, was what influenced me to get a PlayStation 2, and it was the game that, you know, introduced me to the Sonic series from a gameplay perspective. And while I enjoyed it as a kid, time was not kind to it, and my opinions have very radically shifted. Because to me, this used to be just something fun that I'd play over at a friend's house and rent, like, so many times in the 2000s, and I was just... I don't know, it's kind of weird, like, I mean, the sensations that I feel playing this game, like, I mean, a majority of it is negative, and I'm trying to think of how to describe it, like, there is still a part of me that does have some fondness for this game. I think there was a similar term that TGX actually used in his review of Crash Tag Team Racing, in the sense that there are unexpected parts of this game which does make me very nostalgic and feel a bit of joy, but I don't think it's necessarily because the game was that good, it's just that it kind of reminds me of a time long past. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing, really. See, I guess I don't really know what to say. Sonic... excuse me. Sonic Heroes just fills me with so many conflicted emotions when it comes to what I think and feel about this game. Like, I remember... Again, and this is something that I am currently still sort of thinking about, but back during the planned Sonic Marathon 2, which I was initially going to do for the Dreamcast era, and something that I am still kind of undecided upon even as of now, back when I was writing the script for Sonic Heroes, let's just say that part of the reason why I didn't really get those finished, aside from sickness and, well, life and employment piling on, getting me distracted, was that I was so fucking angry when reviewing this game, like... I don't know, rewriting the script for this was just painful, because I mean, I was either too fucking nice to the game, or I was just so bitter and angry that it just kind of hampered the pace of the whole thing, really, so... I don't know. And like, I mean, if you were just to judge Heroes without context as a game on its own, like, it seems like a very small, inoffensive game that shouldn't really mean much, since it was initially intended to just be something that could get newcomers into the Sonic series who hadn't played the adventure games, which is part of the reason why it didn't get the Sonic Adventure 3 title, and have a lot of continuity baggage tying back to previous games, even though it does to a certain extent, since it does contain a lot of familiar ties, both subtly with the gameplay style being a mirror of Knuckles' Chaotix, and also in the fact that it does reintroduce a few things, like, I mean, it brings back Shadow, obviously, and reintroduces Team Chaotix. Sans Red Sonic and Yellow Sonic, because who honestly gives a single fuck? Besides nostalgic man-children Sonic fans who legitimately want every single fucking character to be Happy the Squirrel in Nostalgia Land, which kinda kills the point of making him a character beyond just gameplay shit. Which even then is just a carbon copy of much better stuff that's been done before. It's very easy to get negative when it comes to Sonic, so fuck it. Maybe the... God, what's with me today? I'm so out of it. I don't know. I don't really know what to say, really. Like, I mean, there is another negative grievance I suppose I could air out for the lack of really anything to say about Heroes' very sparse, boring levels, but... Does anybody else get the feeling that people just kind of use Sonic Heroes as, like, street cred for, like, that one underrated Sonic game that, you know, barely anybody's played because it was kind of sandwiched in between the really terrible one with Shadow and the really divisive Sonic Adventure 2, where it's either really good or, you know, really shit and responsible for the downfall of Sonic. I don't know why, but like, I mean, whenever I see modern Sonic stuff, particularly with spin-offs like, you know, Team Sonic Racing or like a bunch of other shit, like, I mean, the one game that they seem to mirror nonetheless is just Seaside Hill specifically, and a lot of people just touting Sonic Heroes as this underrated gem that barely anybody remembers. Like, I mean, fair dues to you if you do still enjoy the game, but I mean, it's underrated for a reason, and it's because this game is fucking terrible. I don't know. And like, I mean, here's the thing, I've played many games in the past that, you know, are very undercooked, have a lot of potential, and don't quite meet it to the surface. The currently ongoing Enter the Matrix is one of them, as I will probably point out as you're watching this. And also, Devil May Cry 2 is another example, and again, as controversial as it might be, Devil May Cry 2 is my favourite game in the series, but Sonic Heroes, a lot of its design decisions just frustrate me, which, you know, never really happened with a lot of other games. I guess maybe the fact that this was my first Sonic game, or the fact that I had a lot of nostalgic value that quickly kind of kneecapped any love that I might have had for this game just might be a factor into that, but I don't know, man, like, it just kind of aggravates me because, I don't know, I mean, I guess, and I should probably use this as a bit of a warning sign, like, I mean, if Sonic Heroes is a game that you enjoy, don't take a lot of my negative critiques to heart. Like, I mean, there is a lot about Sonic Heroes that I will respect, and I will try and point out as we go on in future parts when I'm feeling a little bit less hungover and negative, but it's just a game that I just kind of want to talk about, just to exercise any negative thoughts I might have about it. And of course, that Science Omega's ties to the E-Series robots.
So, you're the ones who are playing games with my army.
Primary target detected. Destroy Dr. Eggman.
You must be Omega. Is that any way to treat your creator? Now witness your master's real power.
If there is one positive I can say about Sonic Heroes is that the soundtrack is pretty good. Like, I mean, it's not the best Sonic soundtrack, and, well, I mean, I would say that it has, like, a little bit more of a peppy vibe compared to Sonic Adventure 2, but, you know, with tracks like this, especially for the Eggman boss fights, it's pretty good. But, I mean, well, this is like one of 3 Eggman boss fights you'll get in the game. It'll either be a runaway while getting shot at and trying to chase down a machine, kind of similar to Sonic Advance 2 boss design, really. Then we have arena boss fights, which you'll be seeing next time, I believe. And then we also have, can't really remember the third style boss fight. Actually, I think that's kind of it, really. Just same patterns of these two. Or maybe I'm just thinking about the character boss fights, which we'll be getting to at the end of the part. Who knows, really. I don't know. The Egg Hawk isn't too bad, just, I don't know. It's a reasonably fun first boss fight, and I'll leave it at that. And, yes, this is also the last video game where Dean Bristow voiced Dr. Eggman. Yeah, rest in peace, my good man. You are truly a treasure to the Sonic series.
Don't underestimate me, Doctor.
It's here! Yeah!
What's wrong with you?
It's here! It's here! We've got work!
What?
I've heard good things about you and require your detective services. And I can pay handsomely.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
SBO, don't be silly. Besides, you know our policy. We never turn down work that pays.
Yeah, you know our policy!
Come on, boys. Let's go.
Yes, sir!
Roger.
Now for the real test. All of you are about to enter Eggman's territory. Are you ready?
Not too late to change your mind.
Why do you think we're here? How else are we gonna make the rent?
Let's go!
So now we have something I'm slightly more positive about, the redesigns of Team Chaotix, which I actually think are pretty good. Like, I don't know, I really do approve of the modern designs of Team Chaotix. Sans, of course, Red Sonic, but then again, as I mentioned, who gives a single solitary fuck? And, well, gotta be honest, I think they're much better off without Mighty or Ray, because Team Chaotix, as is, kind of perfectly balances each other out. Like, I mean, you have the very stoic SBO, you know, as a ninja who follows orders. You have Charmy being a hyperactive kid, which, you know, perfectly balances out. And then you have Vector as, like, the sort of father figure slash, you know, a bit of the, you know, the hard-boiled detective with a bit of a goofy side to him. And to be honest, I love Team Chaotix. Like, I really wish they appeared, well, if they're competently written, I wish they would have appeared in more games, but I don't know. It's just enjoyable to see them interact together, really. Sonic X, I think, especially made very decent use out of the characters. But I mean, yes, as you can see here, we're basically going for, well, basically what is meant to be the precursor to Shadow the Hedgehog with much, much worse level design. Because, well, this game shit controls the fact that you don't really have the teleport system that was implemented into Shadow the Hedgehog, there is a sort of facsimile of that with, like, little flowers that Charmy can use, but they're not really intuitive because you can't really warp to specific parts of the level, unlike what you could use with the checkpoints in Shadow. So, yeah, for people saying that Shadow's mission structure sucks, well, look at where it fucking came from. The cheery, light-hearted Sonic Heroes, but that's okay, I guess Heroes gets a pass because it looks very cartoony and fun. It's charming! Fucking imbeciles. Then again, I also, well, mainly just because of the way I'm handling this little portion is that I'm going to be doing some stages as Team Dark, some stages as Team Chaotix. Basically, the only two that really matter because, well, Team Chaotix, as given their mysterious messenger, gonna uncover the truth behind Dr. Eggman and his challenge, because he issued a challenge to Sonic and Tails and Knuckles to save the world in 3 days. Amy, Cream, and Big are looking for their Chow and Froggy, I think. And basically, it doesn't really matter because they find them. Metal Sonic, no, actually, you know what? Who gives a shit? Metal Sonic is the true final villain, who isn't really subtly built up because he literally shows up like in the middle to say Sonic data copied. Fuck it, whatever. And a lot of people. I would really hesitate to call this story good, because, I mean, it's... Well, I mean, I put it above the Pontac and Graph shit, or, like, whatever the fuck it was in Team Sonic Racing, whatever shit kind of things that we have, regardless of spin-off. But, I mean, I don't know. It's inconsequential enough so it doesn't really bother you, but, I mean, just looking at it from the angle of somebody who hasn't played Sonic before, like, I mean, if you see Metal Sonic just sort of rise up from the mud pile, that means nothing to you. You don't know who it is, so you're going to be waiting regardless to find out who the final boss is, regardless of whether it's Eggman or not. And people who have played Sonic before already know who Metal Sonic is, so that kind of ruins the surprise. And I mean, it's not as if this game really does have any sort of lack of build-up, because I mean, you know, they do have subtle hints towards Metal Sonic with, you know, Eggman being on the other side of the radio with a heightened voice. Even if, you know, Dean Bristo's voice is pretty recognizable. And in turn, a little Easter egg that I'll be pointing out when we get to one of the Hang Castle stages. I don't know. But I mean, to give credit where credit is due to Shiro Maikawa, who was the game's writer returning from Sonic Adventure 2, he was enlisted to write the game after all the levels were complete, which is a completely bass-ackwards way of developing levels. Because, I mean, you know, when it comes to writing a story for your game, you kind of want it to be intertwined with the gameplay and giving context to the levels. So that way everything, from a story perspective, flows a little bit better and you don't just feel like video game man jumping through video game levels. And it's part of the reason why it does kind of bother me, because, like, I mean, if you remember the beginning of Shadow's story, you know, we started out in Eggman's base, I guess, which, well, given some, like, design elements, might be Rail Canyon. And this is also true for Sonic's story, so, you know, the intro cutscene happens, they team up, and then for whatever reason they decide to go all the way back to Seaside Hill, which only really makes sense for Amy, since she and her team were there. So, I don't know, and that's also another problem that I'll probably tackle in greater detail, because with all 4 teams, you know, you basically have to play through the game 4 times. This game is also a very lengthy one, especially when you have the mission structure of Team Chaotix. So, yes, stages can either be as short or as long as you want, and especially as you get to some of the later parts as Team Dark, be prepared for a marathon run, because this game, it's fucking... It fucking tires you. And you know what, unlike Shadow the Hedgehog, where you can skip some of the bullshit levels in the game by means of manipulating the, you know, hero or dark mission structure, you can't do that here. You have to play through the exact same stages, the exact same amounts of time, and, well, there's nothing really you can do about it. You just have to go along with it, and not to mention, you also have to get all 7 Chaos Emeralds to unlock the final story. And, well, let's just say, it wasn't worth it, it was very frustrating, and you know what? I've completed Sonic Heroes once, you know, to get all the Chaos Emeralds and all that sort of shit. I'm never going to do that again. Unless, of course, I have to review the game, in which case, fuck. But I mean, after that, well, I guess I won't ever have a reason to do it again, so maybe I should just review Sonic Heroes. Say that it sucks, get all the emeralds, and just tell people to fuck off and leave me alone. The Chaos Emeralds I'll fucking get into later, but I mean, I guess to talk about anything else specific about Grand Metropolis is that, well, it's a very vibrant looking level. Granted, the graphics don't really do it a lot of justice. I mean, I think this is one of the few games that probably would have looked better in the Sonic Unleashed generation. You know, where a lot of this sorts of, you know, art design could be a lot more vibrant and popping. And I'll admit, I think the Xbox version of the game does a little bit better of a job looking at least decent. But I mean, Sonic Heroes on a visual level just looks very terrible. Like, I mean, I can appreciate the art design trying to mimic classic Sonic mixed in with, you know, the grit of modern Sonic. And I do think that the art style itself does look nice and, you know, avoids making it look too bland and generic, like it just came out of a Grand Theft Auto game. But also, you know, not exactly to the level of, like, Sonic Lost where it was like, oh look, it's cartoon classic imagery, 'cause it's charming! God, I sound like that fucking thing from, Onimusha. It's like, no, what's this? Oh, a liver! But, I don't know, just general frustration. And I think in terms of art design, Sonic Heroes had it right, relatively speaking. But I mean, the graphics really don't do it a lot of justice. I don't know. It is part of the reason why I still prefer Shadow the Hedgehog's visuals over this, in the sense that, you know, say what you will about the renderware engine failing that game, it at least had a definitive art style, and I think honestly had a much better lighting engine than what they had for Sonic Heroes. Because I mean, and I don't know if I'm using the terminology right, but I mean, everything here just looks... It looks kind of flat. Like, I mean, I think the Xbox version does a little bit more in terms of, like, effects for the water and laser beams, but that's about it.
Maybe this wasn't our day.
Yeah, you and me both, Victor. This really isn't my fucking day. But I mean, the game at this point might not seem so bad. It's the next stage which, well, I think it broke me, because I kind of had like a weird Kubler-Ross model of acceptance for Sonic Heroes being terrible. Like, I mean, when I played Seaside Hill, I noticed the controls were much more terrible than what we had with Sonic Adventure 2, but it's like, okay, the controls are kind of wonky, but it's okay, like, maybe the later levels would be really good. Then I played Grand Metropolis, which kind of aired the frustration with the level design itself. As you can see here, you beat up all the enemies to proceed. What a lovely pace breaker. I love it when games prevent me from playing the game and have to stop me to fight enemies that aren't even really difficult to take down or fun to fight in any way. I love this. I don't know. The level design was very patchy, but you know what? I still held out hope that maybe future stages of the game could, you know, have that one level that was really, really good. Oh. And then the stage after this completely broke me, and I just said, you know what? Maybe your childhood can lie to you. Again, like, I mean, the only game that ever really elicited that sort of feeling with me before was Ratchet & Clank's Size Matters. And even in that case, that was because I was like, wow, Ratchet & Clank still on PS2? How did I not know about this? I can't wait to play Ratchet & Clank's Size Matters. And then I did, and the game sucked, and I was like, fuck, even my childhood franchises can betray me. Well, I mean, that was made by High Impact Games, which could charitably be called very, very patchwork compared to Insomniac. Which is part of why I let that and Secret Agent Clank slide a little bit, because despite the fact that those games are, well, bad, you know what, barely anybody remembers those, and, well, at least we got the J reviews and TGX reviews out of it, so I'm happy-ish, even though I do own those two games, but I don't want to play them, like, at all. Like, I mean, and I think also, in terms of, like, pointing out the level design here, I think something that Roger Vanderwey pointed out in his Sonic Dissected series was the fact that the level design in Sonic Heroes is very, very, it's very Spartan, and much more of a smooth ride compared to Sonic Adventure and Adventure 2, which basically just sort of went whole hog with the Sonic and Knuckles philosophy of, you know, levels, you know, speed, platforming, little action set piece with the occasional gimmick thrown in to spice it up. Sonic Heroes, on the other hand, just feels very consistent, which is either a good thing or a bad thing, depending on who you are. But I mean, I think in this case, it feels, I think it kind of goes against its nature a little bit, because As you can see here, you constantly have to stop and fight enemies, which isn't really a problem in regular Sonic games. You know, since, again, you could choose to fight enemies by, you know, the simple bop on the head and keep on going. But the fact that they just sort of implemented combat into this game isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I mean, I don't know, there's something about its core essence that just doesn't really flow very well, and it's not me saying, like, oh, fighting in a Sonic game, that's terrible! Because, I mean, stuff like the Werehog in Sonic Unleashed is handled relatively decently, if a bit uninspired at times. But I mean, the combat here just isn't really focused on the core gameplay, and while you do have a few nice touches with, you know, characters like Omega, especially when he's uploaded to level 3, you know, he can unload missiles, flamethrowers, and all sorts of cool shit. It's mainly when you have to do it so frequently that it just kind of makes these levels feel like a tired slog. And like, I mean, even for the early levels in Sonic Heroes, I mean, I know we are playing as Team Dark, which does have the longest storyline, but, you know, when the levels start getting up there in length, you know, you're not exactly thinking, man, I can't wait to play through this level. You're just thinking, when will it end? I don't know, it's... I guess draining is really the best way I can describe what Sonic Heroes is. It's more draining than Shadow to me, because, I mean, at least, you know, despite the fact that it had you complete the game like 10 times for, you know, each specific ending, at the very least, if you knew your shit, you could get the game done relatively fast depending on which pathway you took. Heroes, on the other hand, you have to slog through this, you have to slog through another storyline, you have to slog through these exact same levels at varying degrees, or you have to slog through Team Chaotix's missions, and you have to get all 7 Chaos Emeralds, which in and of itself is a pain in the ass. More on that at 11. And it's currently 4:09 PM. Do you know where your children are? Who cares? Who honestly cares? I guess also that in the soundtrack for this level is also kind of boring. Like, I mean, it's vibrant, I'll give it that much. I don't know, I think maybe it's just the length of the levels that just kind of makes the tracks feel a little bit more repetitive to my eyes, but the fact that I've just heard it so often that any memorability they might have had just kind of dissipates. I mean, again, I don't mind long levels so long as they can sustain their gimmick, but I don't think Sonic Heroes really does that a lot of the time, and well, I mean, going back and playing through even Sonic Story, the only conceivable good time that I think a lot of people generally tend to have with Sonic Heroes usually comes from Team Rose, who, well, is decent because they actually end the levels at a decent length, if a little bit short from where you think it thematically should. But I mean, apart from that, Team Rose, part of the reason why I don't think you should play on that is because it's easy to the point of being laughable. Like, I mean, whenever you use one of the Team Blasts, which is an ability you can use once you charge up the Team Blast gauge and you get different sorts of perks depending on what it is, it acts as a screen nuke, but what you get with Team Rose is basically another level up, a shield, and invincibility. You know, just in case the game thought that you weren't enough of a pussy. And just kind of well, I mean, it kind of sucks the fun out of it in the sense that you get it done quickly, but I don't know, it just feels kind of it just feels kind of insulting, really, especially considering the lack of point that Team Rose really have to be there. You know what? I think I'm getting so. You know, I think I might start speeding some of these stages up in editing just to kill the boredom, because, like, I mean, at what point was Sonic Team just thinking, hey guys, you know what we can use to make gameplay fun? Stop the elevator to fight the enemies. I was playing Streets of Rage yesterday and I loved the elevator scene and the ensuing hallway thing where you have to chase a bunch of people and fight them and then do the levels again if you choose to become like a badass crime boss and join Mr. X, I guess. More cocaine, please. Guess I might as well talk about the level up system while we're here. I fucking hate this. This is my absolute fucking pet peeve with Sonic Heroes because it's not like an RPG where you grind levels and, you know, get enhancements to your abilities or have any sort of special perks. All you really get is basically your natural abilities like Thundershoot, except it can kill enemies. Omega is the only one that really benefits from it because he gets the missiles, flamethrowers, and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, and Shadow, you know, he gets like a little rush of wind which you can use to go up the poles a little bit easier using like the tornado spin kind of thing. And, you know, which also helps them flipping the turtles on their back and killing them easier. These should have been abilities you should have had from the get-go, not something that you just could have had to get a level up to. To me, it's just a needless obstacle that really did not need to fucking be there. And, like, I mean, it's just this amount of busy work that just makes Sonic Heroes a much bigger pain in the ass than it is, because, I mean, you give the enemies health bars to kind of make combat have a sense of meaning, but you don't give us any sort of cool combo system, or you don't give us any sort of cool means to take down enemies. And at the end of the day, you're just kind of sitting there thinking, why? And again, I guess a little something cool to talk about with Chaos Control in terms of Team Dark is that what they have here is basically Chaos Control, where they freeze, where basically if you use it, it acts as a screen nuke, and time will freeze, which can be of great use to you in a few sections. Especially this one here, because you can kind of freeze the lava that's rising. You do kind of have to be quick on the draw with this one, because if you're not, well, you're fucked. Yes, indeedy. This is indeed a job for Shadow. I don't know, like, I mean, in terms of the stuff that'll kill you the most in this game, it's usually little set pieces like this, because, I don't know, the game's coding just, to me, feels very fucking rough, and, you know, a lot of the segments that in the adventure games would have been, you know, piece of cake, easy to ace, provided you're not going against the game. Here, because of its finicky, like, implementation, it just feels like a bigger pain in the ass than it needs to be. And more often than not, it'll usually be the breezy set pieces that you'll die on more than the actual game itself, so what was otherwise fun in, you know, Sonic Adventure and Sonic & Knuckles and all that is made to be a complete pain in the ass here, so yeah, be prepared to die a lot in this game, and that's, you know, that's not legitimate challenge, that's just Sonic Team being inept, which, if you're looking for the turning point where Sonic Team quote-unquote stopped being good, yeah, this is the game. It wasn't Shadow or 06 that started the so-called, Dark Age of Sonic, it was Sonic Heroes. And no, you're not going to tell me otherwise, because this was the quality drop, if there ever was one. What am I talking about? I have no idea. Yes, Rouge, I feel ashamed too. I'll never win that treasure hunter award ever again.
Man, who are those creeps over there?
What's up, SBO?
And you are...
Just what do you think you're doing here?
Who's this broad?
our client's adversary, perhaps.
You mean the bad guys?
You guys don't fool me. I know what you're after. Better stay out of my way.
Alright, then let's do it!
Well, this isn't even really much of a boss fight, so I might as well just sign off here. Do a whirlwind attack and the teams will go flying. This is legitimately a much easier boss fight than even what Sonic Adventure gave us, so, yeah, I guess on that note, I'm Solidus-Skully, keep it new metal. Look forward to more bullshit Sonic Heroes parts in the future, where I will no doubt ramble incessantly, and you'll have to listen to it. Keep it new metal, and, see you next time, dudes and dudettes. I'm gonna go take a shower.
You should thank me for letting you live.